Today on the iRacing Downshift, Kevin turns it up.
I love going to 11.
Chris is Jerry Seinfeld.
Hello, Newman.
And I can't do anything right. Today on the iRacing Downshift, Kevin tells me how much I suck. Chris tells me how much I suck. All that and more. So strap in. Welcome to the iRacing Downshift. I'm your host, Greg West. I'm here with the boys, Kevin, Baba, and Chris Leone. We have a great show for you today. Big guest again, the man, Matt Malone, huge streamer for us on Twitch and YouTube, sat down with Kevin and I to talk all things streaming, racing, and anything else you can think of, him scaring his dog, etc. We're going to talk about this week in iRacing, NIMH tips, the real-world recap, a lot of good racing this weekend. And then, of course, the Throw and Go Challenge, where we have a special guest, Mr. Dave Kimmer. How you doing, Chris? You had a long weekend.
I did have a long weekend, Greg. I was out at General Tire Vegas Torino with Jim Beaver, one of our eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series owners. And
you got that all in one breath.
I did get that all in one breath. And, well, I mean, that is endurance racing out in the desert. I mean, it took us about 13 hours to finish the race, but we did finish. We made it.
Congrats.
Thank you. 505 miles. Last year, that was my first ever desert race, actually, and we broke about halfway, so it was nice to complete it, but I love it a little less now that I know what it takes to finish it.
Fair. And Kevin, you had a good weekend as well. You made a hammer.
I did make a hammer. Not really racing related, but as we've discussed on this before, I'm kind of an amateur wood turner, and I made a hammer this weekend, so I plan to use it to keep order in the marketing meetings going forward.
Yeah, good
the
luck.
band hammer, right?
That's right. Maybe, I could make a special one for NIM.
All right, well, let's get this party started. This week in iRacing, let's talk about Bristol and PEAK. Heading there, we saw a great race in the real world of NASCAR on Saturday night. Chris, tell us about PEAK.
Yeah, Greg, the PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series coming back to Bristol for the first time in a long time. Most of these drivers haven't run Bristol in the PEAK Series because it just hasn't been on the schedule for quite a while, which makes it a really interesting playoff cutoff race. Garrett Lowe, Ryan Luza, Blake Reynolds all clinched right now. 5 more spots up for grabs. Bobby Zelensky, Keegan Leahy, Michael Conti, Jimmy Mullis, and Zach Novak, the 5 guys who are in them right now. But Nick Ottinger, Casey Kirwan, and Christian Challoner, all 3 of them have the mathematical shot. Christian, little further back, he's going to need some help. But that said, anything can happen, especially at a track like Bristol. We saw some really exciting racing on Saturday night, and I'm sure that's going to transfer over to what we see on Tuesday.
Who's your pick for the upset to get in there? I mean, we've very capable drivers that are outside the cut line. We have incredibly capable drivers just in the cut line. Who's your money on? Or do you have an upset pick?
Well, yeah, I think Nick Ottinger's going to find his way in. I mean, we remember that the first race that we had on NBCSN with NASCAR America, Nick pulled out the victory there. He's been strong all season long. I'm not sure who he bumps out, who that comes at the expense of, but I feel like Nick Ottinger is going to find a way in.
What about you, Kevin? Do you have any picks, any upsets? You think it's going to stay? What's your money on?
I think it's going to stay with the guys that are kind of in already. I think that they've been showing consistency, and I think that that's going to be the rest of the playoff field, really pulling for Conti here as well.
Moving on, we got a lot of changes coming. Season 4 just around the corner this September build. Kevin, we have done some controversial rearranging of the series in the schedule. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that happens almost every season. We'll try to make some adjustments to existing schedules, series, things like that, to try to accommodate maybe some new cars, new content. It's a difficult process, right? So we have a kind of fixed number of customers, right? Members that are driving. That number is increasing every day, but it's it is what it is. And as we add new content, that, by the way, is often requested. That's why we do these things, right? TCR car coming. That's been one of the most requested vehicles since I've been here. So very highly anticipated. It needs to go somewhere, right? So one simple option is, okay, we have new car, new series. Let's just add it to the iRacing service and leave it alone. We could certainly do that. But the argument there is, well, that's diluting things, and what are we doing? So we try to be proactive. We look at numbers. We look at participation numbers. And we can look at trends. Obviously some of the cars that don't have good participation now may be used to, but we look at a lot of factors and we try to figure out the best way to accommodate as many customers as possible. I mean, we want this to be fun for people, right? I mean, we spend a lot of time on this. Sometimes we read the forums and if you were new to this, you'd think that maybe we didn't care about it. We absolutely do care about it. We sit in conference rooms for hours on end trying to figure out the best way to do this, and that's why we combine some series sometimes. Sometimes we have to eliminate things, but it's based on participation. It's based on what we think will be the best for the most number of customers.
Also considering the grand scheme of things, we are making some of these changes based off things that may be coming in the future that we haven't announced yet, but instead of making multiple changes over and over and over, it's building a system that can absorb those changes so we don't have to make sweeping changes.
That's a great point because, take the pain now, right? Make the change now, and then we're set up for maybe in a season or two down the road when maybe there's something else that we're working on. Obviously, we try to communicate things we're working on, but we don't list everything that's in progress because there's a lot of things in progress, and that doesn't help us just giving you a laundry list.
Yeah, and what were there, 10, 12 people in those meetings? I still see easels up with just all sorts of different possibilities written out. I mean, this was priority number one while this was happening. I mean, nobody slept on this. Everybody gave their viewpoints. Everybody had tons of great input to put in here.
Everybody pitched in and did testing when we set up the multi-class stuff.
Yeah, and the unfortunate part is that whatever we decide it can't make everybody happy, right? So we do our best, and we try really hard to please as many people, but we know that somebody's going to be left disappointed, and that's unfortunate. But we've got to make these decisions and move forward.
So let's go over just a high level view, a skimming of what's going to change in the coming season. The big one that definitely generated the most discussion, the SimLab Production Car Challenge, has quickly become one of our most popular series. It had both versions of the MX-5. As well as the Solstice in it before. That series is going to grow a little bit. It's actually going to absorb the Grand Touring Cup as well. And that was a decision, once again, just based off numbers. I know there's some people that are really upset about it, but this was by putting the Mustang in there as well as the Jetta, it wasn't eliminating a car because we didn't want to alienate. Just because only 200 people race a car, we don't want to upset those 200 people. And sometimes we have to come up with some sort of weird amalgamation to make it happen.
That's quite a word.
It's on my word of the day toilet paper this morning. So anyway, that series is going to go to the Rookie 3.0, and it's going to, once again, have the FR500, the Ford Mustang, the Global MX-5. We are not going to have the old MX-5 in there anymore. And we're also going to have the Jetta and the Solstice. It's going to be 4 cars in multi-class. They run together really, really well. The Jetta and the MX-5 are close, and some argued, well, they should be in the same class, but it's simpler to have single car classes at this level and just let people race, and it should be some good racing.
We don't need to do some BOP on those 2 cars or anything. That overcomplicates things.
So originally we're making some changes to the Fanatec Global Challenge. The community spoke and we listened, and that one's going to stay unchanged. What's really exciting though is the dirt road guys are getting what you guys begged for, and that is a ladder. So we bring in a new piece of content, the Pro 2 light truck. It's going to run in the Rookie Series as a fixed car. It's got about 60% of the horsepower. It is a blast to drive. And then we're going to move into, we'll have a D car and a C car. So the Pro 4 now becomes the D car, and it is an open setup. That's what everybody wanted, and that's what you got. And for the first time in iRacing history, we have a C-Class series for dirt road, and that's going to be the Pro 2, which is also open setup. The timing for both the Pro 2 and the Pro 4 will stay the same, and the Pro 2 Lite is actually going to go on every half hour because the races are so short. Chris, you're just looking like you got something for this.
I love that we're making the Pro 2 the first C-Class truck. That has become the pinnacle of short course off-road racing. All of the big names, including RJ Anderson, who we worked with on scanning these trucks, run the Pro 2 right now. It's pretty much the most popular pro class in Lucas Oil Off-Road, so it's really exciting to see this being the one that kind of steps up the ladder.
We also have another brand new series, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, featuring the Audi RS3 LMS TCR car. This is what people have been begging for since, Kevin, you say since you started here, basically.
It seems like one of the first requests I remember was a TCR or touring car. And we did the Auto Sports Show back in, 2007 or 2008, and people were asking for it then. So Pretty excited to have this car. The schedule looks pretty interesting. It's got some U.S. tracks. It's got European tracks. A nice mix. I think people are going to enjoy that a lot.
We also have the way the schedule works. It's going to match up with two IMSA race weeks. So they'll be racing at Laguna Seca the same week as IMSA, as well as Road Atlanta. So that'll be kind of cool that we got it to match up a little bit. And then the last change we have, and this one's kind of the new one, the Formula Fun Series is turning into Formula Sprint Fixed. It's going to be very similar to our Ferrari GT3 Challenge Series. It's going to run every hour, 30 minutes opposite of the Ferrari GT3 Challenge. It's going to be fixed. It's moved up to official. We moved it to a higher downforce, and it's going to run free tracks, at least for the first season here, to see if something sticks.
Yeah, and Greg, I know that Formula Fun was kind of your baby, so it's cool to see this actually moving up and becoming an official series. I think that's kind of what, our iRacers wanted, and I'm excited to see how the high downforce setup works.
Moving on to NIMH's tips. Every week, Nim Cross, our chief steward here at iRacing, gives us a tip to kind of help the stewarding process and let people understand more of what goes on whenever there is a protest. This week, this is a big one that we kind of skipped over. It is simply cutting a replay properly. Nim says that one of the biggest issues that he deals with is people send in a protest that's well worded and he has a general idea of what's going on, and then he gets to the replay and they cut the wrong part. So it's a 4-step process. Find the starting point of where you want the replay, hit the scissors button, let it play to the end point, stop it, hit the save button. He says a lot of times people start it right after the incident happened and then he can't do anything about it. He says another tip on that is to tell a story. If there was an incident that caused retaliation, make sure you show both clips, and that'll just help your cause in getting something, a resolution.
It's a great tip from Nim. I know that he gets a ton of protests, he and his team, and the more information and the more accurate information you can provide, the better it's going to go for everybody. Exactly.
Unlike some of the real-world stuff that happens, we don't have somebody sitting in on every single session. So what you provide is massively, massively important. I've been in real-world race control and watched stewards have to rewind from the very beginning of the race and seeing the first incident, the retaliation, on and on and on. That's how a lot of times, especially in rallycross, how our stewards used to devise the penalties that they ended up instituting. But if we don't have that context, then we can't do that, and your protest may not turn out the way you want.
Moving on to our special guest this week, worldwide streaming sensation. You're welcome, Matt. Matt Malone. You can see him on Twitch, you can see him on YouTube, and you can hear him on the iRacing Downshift podcast this week. So without further ado, Mr. Matt Malone. All right, well, Kevin and I are excited to have another great guest this week, Mr. Matt Malone, gracing us with his presence. You know him from Twitch, YouTube, Grip TV, friend of Jimmy Broadbent, all the above. Matt, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, thanks, guys, for having me. I've really been enjoying the podcast you guys have been putting on, and I can't believe I'm a part of it. Here I am.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to have you. Just a brief intro, I guess. You and I have known each other through email for many years. We've worked together at a couple of events, live events, done some things with Mazda. So it's been good to get to know you over the years, you and Samantha, and it's really cool to have you on the show here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just been doing the Twitch thing with iRacing. When you have a passion about something, you want to share it with everybody, and just a really great community to be involved in with the iRacing community and just sim racing community in general. And it's given me great opportunities to go places and meet people, and it's been a blast.
Awesome. So just to get started here, so for the few people that don't know who you are, can you tell us how you got started, both in iRacing and streaming?
Yeah, so I've always been kind of a video gamer, and I've always kind of leaned towards the racing games. I'm 35 years old, so I kind of started with NES and stuff like that. But when consoles really got going, you'd have PlayStation, like Ridge Racer and stuff. So I've always gravitated towards the racing games and just kind of evolved from there. I guess Forza Motorsports on Xbox 360 was really when I really got into it. And I started looking into pedal sets and steering wheels, and through review videos for steering wheels is when I found out about iRacing. And it was very intimidating at first, but I said, what the heck, I'll jump in. and just absolutely fell in love with it right off the bat. And then, meeting people on the sim, finding out, some people were actually streaming their races live. And I was like, what's this Twitch thing all about? And so I found out about that, and it just kind of escalated to, hey, I could try to do that. Hey, what kind of software do I need? Oh, it's free software, OBS. Okay, great. I can do that. And just morphed into, hey, whenever I'm racing, I'll just stream my races live. And if anybody wants to watch, that's great. And you start getting to know people, and it just kind of snowballs after that, and just became really one of my favorite things to do, and just morphed into creating a community called Grip TV, which just kind of gathers a bunch of passionate sim racers together. Grip TV, I think of it as like a beacon where community members can flock to discuss sim racing, discuss real life racing, just kind of hang out in our own little niche community, and just a place for us to gather. And that's just kind of what it's morphed into. And we got 16 members now. If you go to griptvteam.com, you can see the full list of streamers. And it's been great over the last, I've been streaming now for about 4 or 5 years or so. And iRacing just keeps getting better and better, and the community just keeps getting better and better. So it's great to be a part of it. And who knows what the future holds. I mean, I just saw the new damage model teaser video, and it just blows my mind what you guys are doing over there. And I'm super excited for the future.
Yeah, we're super excited to get that out as well. I know our members in the forums have been pretty passionate about it. But going back to Grip TV, I'm kind of curious at the genesis of it. Like, where did the idea of Grip TV start, and who was involved in that conversation?
Well, me and Jimmy Broadbent, famous guy over there on the old YouTubes. Me and him were originally, we both kind of started out at about the same time streaming, and we both at the time streamed on Twitch. And I think what happened was that I became partnered, a Twitch partner. And once you become a Twitch partner, they allow you to have like a team page. So said, okay, well, we got this team page. What do you want to do with it? And me and Jimmy were like, well, why don't we create like a network, call it Grip TV, and it'll just kind of be just a live sim racing network almost. Think of it like a TV channel or something where we can get some guys on there. Hopefully somebody will be live at most times. We get people from different time zones. And then a lot of our stuff we would offload to YouTube. So it was a place where somebody could go and watch live racing at all times, either live or via YouTube later on, on demand. And really, it's just a place where passionate sim racers go. And we created it kind of like a network. It wasn't like a racing team. It's not like a race team. It's just more like a TV network. Full of streams and YouTube videos.
Now you have a kind of a unique niche. You stream on Twitch, and then some of those make it to YouTube. What do you think the ratio is from Twitch broadcasts to YouTube videos?
It's pretty high right now. During the summer, I work full time at a normal job. So when I do stream, it's maybe once or twice a week, and each time I stream, maybe I get like 3 or 4 races in. So I really try to make every one of those races good, so they will make it to YouTube. But that's kind of the difference between me and like Jimmy Broadbent, because Jimmy's like really good YouTuber. He can make a standalone YouTube video with commentary like perfect, like meant for YouTube. But what I do is it's much easier. Like I can just press start streaming and I'm live, and it doesn't really have to have any, planning behind it. And I can just do my races. But I figure, hey, might as well hit start recording when I start the race, do a little quick intro, and then do my race, do a little outro, and then boom, I can offload it to YouTube later on. Usually it's good enough for YouTube, so I'll put it on there. And but not everything makes it to YouTube, but the majority of it does. So that helps me, helps the content flow, because not everyone can see you, can watch you live, depending on time zones and things like that. So it helps people catch up on the races they miss out on.
If somebody's looking for an Easter egg in one of Matt Malone's videos, the week I started iRacing, I did an open fixed GT3 race at Laguna Seca, and with 1 lap to go, Matt lapped me. and didn't like the way I came out of the corkscrew, and he was quite vocal about which way I went right, and he thought I should go left. But it was pretty funny.
I'm sure Matt was correct.
Yeah, he probably was.
Geez.
I'm not good at this, so
Usually I say one thing and then I look at the replay and I'm like, that's played out a little bit different than I thought it did.
that was before everybody knew who I was in the forums, and yeah, people know who I am now. I don't think a lot of them like me, but that's the way it is.
Well, coming over that corkscrew, you're dropping what is it? How many stories? It's quite a drop, so it's kind of blind coming down through there, so you can get pretty exciting.
So I want to talk about the streaming just a little bit more, because I don't think people realize the level of professionalism that people like yourself and Jimmy and the crew at Grip TV, the time that goes into it, because it's not just hit record and go. There's a lot of work that goes into it, in post-production and making sure that you're promoting yourself in, the best way possible. Can you kind of let people that are interested in maybe getting starting in streaming with iRacing or any other game for that matter, kind of what the time commitment is to put out what looks like just simple 45-minute video? Yeah,
I mean, it's, to somebody that just tunes in and say, hey, look at this guy. He's just sitting there. He's doing a race. It doesn't seem too hard. Maybe I can do it. But it's a lot of time behind the scenes setting up overlays and setting up notifications and making sure all your info's in there and chat commands. And it's just a lot of stuff that you're constantly tweaking. You're constantly looking over. You got all the Kutu overlays. You're tweaking this and that and just trying to make it, make a product that people are easily taken in. And once it is, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a hard job. I mean, if you love what you do, it's not too much work. It's just, you're always tweaking it. You're always trying to make it better. You're changing stuff. Maybe most of the stuff that you change and you're tweaking, it's just because it's ran its course. You got to update it just to keep things fresh. But once it is all set up and once you're going, I mean, it really is sometimes just as easy as get home, get on the computer, turn everything on, make sure all 20 programs are running before you, hit start streaming and sign up for races and away you go. But, a lot of times, the way I kind of treat streaming is would I want to watch it? Is there going to be a lot of dead air? Like, I don't want to sit there and watch somebody not talking or not interacting with chat or not racing or, so I'm trying to keep things moving. I'm trying to, have conversation with people in the chat. I'm trying to, because people have such a short attention span now, it seems, including myself, I guess, that you always want to be, you don't want to be lagging up too much on one little thing. You want to keep it moving. You want to get on to the next race. If you're going to watch some replay, get to the exciting stuff right away and so go from there. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of time. Time kind of heals all. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you mess with it, and the more you tweak it, the better it's going to suit what you want it to do. And I think the product speaks for itself. And it's never perfected. Like, you'll never get to the point where it's like, okay, here I'm done. Now I'm done messing with everything. No, because
sounds a lot like iRacing, right?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
we continue to develop and trying to make it better every day. It's pretty darn good right now, but we're going to make it better.
Right, exactly.
Going back, you do a great job with engaging with your viewers. I think that's really hard to do, but it sometimes comes at a cost. What do you think the percentage of the time you're crashing is directly related to you looking at chat?
Oh boy.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Like, I guess the joke's always like, you ever crash while reading chat? And then I guess the answer is yes. I mean, it definitely has happened, but I've also crashed when I'm 100% focused, so I think the majority of it is that my overall lap times and my overall, like, how fast I am, definitely is decreased by the amount of interactivity I have with the chat. Meaning, like, if I were to just concentrate on a race 100% from start to finish, I probably would do better than if I was, the way I usually do it was talking to chat and stuff like that. So, but the way I kind of do streaming is that, like, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. Like, yes, I want to do well in all the races, and yes, I want to try to win races or have good races, but I'm also doing the stream, and I'm very passionate about that as well. So I have to balance that out. And, certain races, I'm more focused on the race than others. If it's just a one-off little Mazda race, I'm going to be talking to chat mostly. But if it's a big-time strength of field race, people understand that, hey, I'm going to be concentrating on the race. And different tracks too. You get certain tracks with a long straightaway. I'm just sitting there. I might as well read the chat on the straightaway. And if you notice, usually I'm concentrating when I'm into the braking zone, I'm into the corners, and I'm concentrating. But it's definitely a balance, and it's hard to find that balance 100%. And I still struggle with it, obviously. But yeah, sure. I crash while reading chat. Sure. Answer your question.
Now, switching gears a little bit, your wife, Samantha, has made some lovely cameo appearances in your podcasts, or in your streams. Sometimes that, invited, and sometimes she walks in and scares the ever-living crap out of you. Those are my favorites. But how did her getting behind the wheel, was that her idea or was that your idea?
No, it was kind of her idea. She saw that I was passionate about racing and about streaming, and, she saw the opportunity here. And when you got a really nice setup and a rig, and who wouldn't want to give it a shot, so yeah, it was kind of her thing. And she's admitted to me, like, hey, you're passionate about it, so I want to be passionate about it. It's something we can do together. It's not something like she would pick up by herself, although back in the day, she used to play Call of Duty on a squad and everything. So she was definitely a little video gamer back in the day. But yeah, no, it was all her. I didn't push her into it or anything, and she likes it, and she hasn't done it in a while, but she's been concentrating on the marathon and stuff right now. But yeah, no, I'm not going to stop her. I'm like, hey, you want to give it a shot? Here you go. And she loved it. She's very competitive, so I think that helped out. And she likes it when she does it. She just got to get in there more often.
Yeah, that's a thing. Leslie tends to jump into. She doesn't like jumping into actual racing sessions. She likes to go in a hot lab, but I think she's a little afraid of it sometimes. But once she gets in there, she doesn't stop giggling, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk to you about traveling. You've got to do some really cool stuff. Kevin, were we a part of the Mazda?
Yeah, so we did some stuff with you, I guess a year and a half ago. So with Mazda, which was really cool. And I keep seeing you. It seems like every month you're traveling someplace else. So, and what I think is really interesting, besides the travel, but streaming has really, people often say, well, streamers are guys that just sit in their basement and play on their computers and don't interact with anybody or whatever. But you've gotten to meet a lot of people in person around the world. I think that's really cool opportunities that have been opened up for you.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? I remember going to Road Atlanta, meeting you there, and doing that thing with Mazda, and that was a great opportunity. Streamed live from the event, and since then I hooked up with the Fernando Alonso Racing Esports team. I guess I'm the U.S. ambassador for FA Racing. They compete in all sorts of different types of esports and all sorts of different games, including like Gran Turismo and R Factor 2 and Project Cars and iRacing and stuff like that. And yeah, I got to go to Spain to meet the boss himself, Fernando Alonso, and they sent me to the Indy 500, which was a little disappointing because Fernando didn't make the race, but we were there in support, of esports and just trying to spread esports to the masses. It's becoming a thing for sure. I just can't believe it's taken off the way it has, and to really have a real world presence in a lot of these different locations, whether it's at a track or just media events around the world. It's
you went to
unbelievable.
Didn't you go to the Fanatec launch of one of their new products?
Yeah, went to the Fanatec launch in Germany and got to test out the new Podium line of direct drive wheels, which are just now starting to hit the people that ordered them first batch. So yeah, that was really exciting. Got to meet a lot of people that you see online for so many months and years, and you finally get to meet them in person, and just really great opportunities. Who would have thunk it? Just a couple of years ago, you would never think that esports or anything would have taken off the way it has. And look at this, even iRacing giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars for this stuff. And I just can't even imagine what the next couple of years is gonna be, and even 10 years from now, it's gonna be absolutely crazy. So I'm just glad to be a part of it, really.
We were sitting in a meeting that's been a couple weeks ago, and we kind of were doing the math in our head and realized we went over $500,000 in cash and prizes this year and didn't really realize it. So that was a pretty cool number to realize, and it just keeps growing faster and faster. So it's a lot of fun to be a part of. We talked about Fanatec and your involvement with them. This is your typical streamer question. I know the answer, but what are you running now? What are you running for your rig as far as your wheel and pedals and all the fun stuff that people save and save and save for?
Yeah, right now, actually, I'm VRS sent me the new VRS Direct Force Pro wheelbase that isn't out for the public yet. They've given me an early version, so it's my first direct drive wheelbase, and it's amazing. And I guess it's going to be priced very, very well, very competitively. And then I got the Fanatec Porsche rim. And Heisenfeld Pro pedals and a 4-play rig, the 80/20 4-play competition rig, and a Thrustmaster H-pattern shifter, which if you love driving the Mazda, which I do, or the Mustang, anything in iRacing that wants you to use an H-pattern shifter, definitely get one because it makes the immersion level that 10 times better. I definitely recommend that. And a couple of button boxes and stuff like that. So triple screens, all the good toys that, you don't get it all overnight. It's more of a, you accumulate these things over time, and before you know it, you got a really nice rig. And a lot of this stuff now, the rig was sent to me for free to try out, and the wheelbase was sent to me by VRS to try out. And so I do thank those guys, but, yeah, it's great. I love it.
Now, when you're running the triples, when you're streaming, are you still racing on triples, or are you using the side monitors for other software?
No, I'm racing on full triples. The OBS, the stream just sees the center screen, but I see all 3 screens.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I see you flipping back and forth, looking at the side views. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, I do that sometimes just for the stream, so they can see what's to the side of me. But also just because I can see more if I click that button. You can see even more if you look at the right monitor. So I do for a couple of reasons, but yeah.
Cool. So what do you have in the plans coming up? What's next for Matt Malone? I could almost envision live streaming trying to qualify for one of the World Championship Series or something. But
oh boy, I don't know if I'll ever get into some of the higher competition stuff. I would really have to dedicate myself to that. My thing is I get on, I just race random kind of GT races. I'll throw in an open wheeler every once in a while. Yeah, I don't know. I love iRacing. I'm excited. I like all the new features that are coming out. I like the new content that comes out. And for me, just to be able to get on and race as many races as I can, to take it all in as best I can, that's kind of my thing. And who knows what'll come in the future. I know I have a group of us from Grip TV. Checkers or Wreckers is setting this all up. We're all going to be going to the Daytona 24 in January. So I got my tickets.
Nice.
And so I'm sure there'll be some vlogging. If we can try to do some live streaming, that'd be cool. But yeah, I got my tickets and my airplane tickets. So me, Samantha, and I are going to the Daytona 24. So that's going to be exciting. A little Grip TV meetup. And so I'm definitely sure there'll be content from that.
Awesome. There's usually a couple of iRacing staff at that race, so we'll be sure to connect.
For sure.
Come
Kevin,
January.
Usually a couple iRacing staff members. Hint,
Yeah.
hint, wink, wink, new guy, what?
Okay. Awesome.
Kevin was going to ask something about new content. But
Yeah, I
forgot.
just lost my train of thought here. So
Great. I had the whole
I got
thing
it.
without
I got
editing.
it. Here we go. Now he's got to edit. So, so obviously you follow iRacing pretty well. You probably know more of the news than Greg and I do. But what are you most looking forward to coming out in iRacing?
Damage model for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's coming. You saw the video. We talked about it.
I know it. I'm excited. I know you guys aren't gonna. I'm not like, where is it already? Give it to us already.
You're the only one.
I'm a patient sim racer. I know that when you guys actually do something, you take the time to do it right. And so I'm patiently waiting, and I'm excited to see all the updates to it, because as a viewer, I just imagine it as a viewer of a stream or a YouTube video to see to what that damage model is going to do for people. You already with the sparks and the particles and the dirt flying around, that alone is just amazing to me, just watching it. But imagine you got hoods flying everywhere and doors and tires and sparks are flying and there's debris. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So, yeah, I think I'm most excited for that. And then also it was a surprise to me that on the last podcast that you guys did, you guys talked about the rain, and you guys are working on rain. And so that's kind of exciting. I know that's a long ways out, but it's just some people get really excited about new content, new tracks and new cars, and that's fine and everything. But I like what you guys are doing to the actual simulation. You're adding the dynamic tracks and the dynamic weather and the damage model and the rain's coming. I like that kind of stuff. That gets me excited. So
that makes a lot of sense, because it seems to me no matter what we release, I always see you racing the Mazda. So
that's true. I always fall back to the Mazda. I love that thing.
We were doing some serious testing today, and I was lucky enough to be in the MX-5, and sometimes I forget how much fun it is just to rip around Lime Rock in that thing and just see how much you can use the momentum to get around the corner without touching the brake. It's a different challenge than a lot of our cars.
It's so much fun, and the racing is so good. You can get bumper to bumper, door to door racing with the Mazda cleanly, and I think a lot of the faster cars, people miss out on that type of racing. So yeah, I love it.
All right, Matt. Well, Matt, thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate your time. We know you're busy, like you said, with a real job, just like everybody else. So we do appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back on the show, maybe after we release some stuff that you're hopefully excited about.
Well, that would be great, and I really do appreciate you guys having me on. It was a lot of fun, and look forward to the future podcasts you guys put out. You guys are doing a great job, so keep up the good work.
We appreciate it. If you stay on for a second, we'll give you a hint on what's to come.
Ooh.
Always great hearing from one of our streamers. Matt does a lot for the iRacing community. But moving on to our real-world recap, this is brought to you by the guys over at SimLab. Richard and the boys have put together a great prize pack for the SimLab Production Car Challenge. For Season 3 and for Season 4, they're going to be giving away one of their P1X sim racing chassis. I took delivery of mine this weekend, still putting it together. My basement's a mess. But a really cool prize valued at about $700 that's going to be given away to a random participant in that series.
We ought to be able to announce the winner on our next podcast, right? From the end of the season?
We should be able to. Yeah, that's correct.
Very cool.
I hadn't looked at the calendar that far. All right, let's get it kicked off. NASCAR at Bristol under the lights, one of my favorite races of the season. Chris, tell us about it.
Well, Greg, Denny Hamlin taking that checkered flag, and I know that this one was a tough pill to swallow for a lot of NASCAR Nation that is really rallied behind Matt DiBenedetto losing his ride in the 95 car at the end of the season, and DiBenedetto comes home second. And, one of the interesting things about this, Ryan Newman took a lot of flack for racing Matt DiBenedetto as hard as he was as a lapped car. But guys, you got to remember, Ryan Newman's racing for a playoff spot too. Matt DiBenedetto takes a victory, it gets that much harder for Ryan Newman to make it to the playoffs. So he had something to race for there. He wasn't just blocking and being a pain in the butt to everybody. He knows if Matt DiBenedetto takes a victory, then that's one more playoff spot that he can't secure.
What I did really like to see, though, is immediately after the race, of course, you had Matty D in the emotional interview, but then Denny Hamlin, first thing that happens whenever he gets the mic in front of him, says, "I am sorry, but I also have to do what I have to do for my team and for my sponsors, and that my job is to go win the race." And he,
there's no way he can not try to win that race. I mean, that's what he gets paid to do, right? So I don't feel like he did anything wrong. It's cool that he certainly felt some emotion and felt bad, but hey, he had the opportunity. He's got to go for the win. He's a racer. And
the fastest car did win that race. I mean, he hawked him down from I think 2.5 seconds back with like 30 to go, and just it was a 10th here, 700s here, and it was a good race.
You know, the interesting thing to me, at the beginning of the season, I think there were a lot of us that wondered if Denny Hamlin was still going to be in that 11 car next year. Because obviously there is a lot of talent at Joe Gibbs Racing at the lower levels. And, you know, everybody has been saying, well, you know, it's time for Christopher Bell to move up. And obviously that's something we're going to like to see, because we have worked with C. Bell, you know, at Chili Bowls on all sorts of things. And having C. Bell in the Cup Series is just another great iRacer that's running towards the front. But Denny Hamlin is, I feel like he's kind of saved his position in the 11 car, same way that Simon Pagenaud did in IndyCar with Team Penske when he won the Indy 500. But Denny Hamlin wins Daytona, wins multiple other races. At this point, he's my pick for the title.
Yeah, I mean, rumor has it that Christopher Bell has taken Matt's seat, right? I mean, who knows if that's true or not, but there's a lot that goes into this. It's not always about performance. You can have a great season. There's a lot of money involved in NASCAR and in race. It's kind of the part that doesn't get talked about enough, right? I mean, look at last year's truck champion, right? Loses his ride. He might win the championship again this year, right? Moffitt, but he lost a ride to a guy that presumably brought more resources to the team. And then he goes to another team and he still might win the championship. It's not always about talent. It's not saying that Christopher Bell is not talented, but there's more to the piece, more to the puzzle, I guess, than just winning races.
Also, Kevin, a little bit of excitement for iRacing during the Xfinity race.
Yeah, Timmy Hill had a career best 7th place finish in the Xfinity race at Bristol, which is pretty exciting. He's one of our PEAK Series drivers, has been for years. It's fun to watch him at the track. He's a great guy. You know, obviously he's not in, you know, maybe the top car, but to have him such a great finish was really cool to see.
Moving on, let's talk about IndyCar at Pocono, and the second year in a row, a really rough accident, a lot of question marks, a lot of comments. Kevin, what were your thoughts? That was a rough turn one, a rough lap one.
That was yeah, absolutely. Wow, to steal a phrase from from Chris.
I want royalties.
No, I mean, lots of thoughts go through my head. Pocono's a tough one. You know, if IndyCar never went back to Pocono, you know, I suppose I'd be okay with that. There's just so many, you know, tough memories for me of races there. And, you know, what caused this incident? I don't know. We could debate that forever, but it seems like it's such a dangerous track. When there is an incident, it goes badly. I mean, you just watch the video, you know that.
But here's the thing. Was this a track issue on this one? I don't think it was. This was Sato, who had a run, no question asked, had a run. He was about a quarter of the way clear, though, and decided to hang a left in Rossi, and then we saw what happened. Now,
right, on the straightaway, by the way.
On the straightaway. And there's a lot of back and forth on social media and interviews and whatnot. I have my thoughts. Sato, this one's on you, buddy. I think he should be suspended. I think there's talks of being suspended. You can't do that in an open wheeler. An open wheeler requires a little bit more finesse. I mean, that causes a big accident in NASCAR, which, you know, cars don't take flight like they did. So glad to see everybody walk away from that one all right.
For sure. Especially glad to see everybody walk away, especially considering what we've seen at Pocono over the past few years. I guess my first thought process when we were talking in pre-production about this incident was, well, if you did that in an iRacing race, would you be suspended from the service? And I guess that's kind of where I come down. I don't know what you guys think there, but I would kind of align with that. I mean, it's a tough deal, but the fact of the matter is you can't win the race on lap one. I know that Sato's philosophy has always been no attack, no chance, and it makes him immensely popular. I remember at Indy, 7 years ago when Franchitti won and he was going into turn one, trying to make the pass, trying to get that Indy 500 win, which he eventually did earn, but, you know, lap 199 of 200 might be the place for that move. Lap one is probably not the place for that move, but I feel really bad for the promoters at Pocono who have always put in fantastic effort in every race that they did and have just continued to have to deal with sort of the stigma of racing at that track.
Greg, you asked if it's a track issue or whatever. The track's different. All the tracks are different. You know, Indy is super fast. Doesn't, you know, but the corners are different and you set up the cars different. It's not nearly as wide. You know, the cars at the start of this Pocono race were 5 or 6 wide going down the front straight, which is super spectacular. But does that mean people race differently? I suppose it does.
See, that's my thought. I'm curious whether the guys at Pocono would consider narrowing the straightaways because the choke points are so big, especially going into the tunnel turn, because you don't choke that much going down into turn one, a little bit, but there's several lines you can take through turn one. You can hang it 3 wide through the entire corner if you have to, with room to spare on both sides. But the choke point into turn 2 there is nasty. It really pinches down. It's hard to even go 2 wide through there, let alone 3 wide. So when they're 3 and 4 wide on the backstretch and all of a sudden everybody has to get in line, you see what you saw there. So almost like moving the barrier out. And obviously these things cost money, but at what point is, it worth it to keep the race?
And maybe some of the issue would be safety improvements to the cars. I know that they're working on the windscreen for next year. That's controversial. I'm in favor of it. Anything they can put on an open wheel car to keep people alive, I'm in favor of it. I don't care if it makes the car, quote, ugly or not. I think that they should be working to save drivers' lives.
The new AFP, the thing that our racers hated when it first came out, the cone in front of the driver, saved James Hinchcliffe from taking a shot. A piece of carbon fiber flew off and smacked that thing square.
Could have easily gone through his visor. Who knows? Maybe it would have missed him. We don't know, but it was headed towards him, and that could have caused a lot of damage.
Yeah, that wasn't the only racing happening this weekend. Chris, you were out in Vegas, out in the dirt.
Yeah, Greg, desert off-road racing, it's a little bit different from the short course stuff that we have on iRacing right now, but a lot of the lessons that we learned over the race weekend actually apply to some of the stuff that you're doing in Lucas Oil Off-Road on iRacing. We went 505 miles through the desert, like I touched on at the top of the show, and one of the biggest things that we had to deal with the entire day, managing our equipment, it was almost 110 degrees out there for most of the day. So we were dealing with overheating issues a lot of the time, and the lesson that we kind of learned was we had to drive at about 75-80%. Not me personally, and that's probably for the better, but I was riding in the chase truck with Jim and his team, just sort of monitoring everything that was going on while we were out there. And, we learned you really have to manage your equipment, and you really had to drive safe and smart. And frankly, if you're taking on Lucas Oil Off-Road and iRacing the first time, I think that sort of philosophy, maybe drive 80% or so the first time, is really going to serve you well. The fact of the matter is, you're not going to get better at these things unless you're turning lap after lap after lap. And that means
not dumping it in turn one.
Yes, exactly. You can't just gun it. We had a driver change, and, in this race, this is a desert endurance race. The guys were doing 5-6 hour stints at a time, but feeling out the car after the first driver change, the car went into limp mode about 5 minutes in. Because, Trent, Jim's brother, when he first got in, sort of feeling out the car, what can it do, what can it do? And, you can't overcook it. You can't take anything for granted there. You want to stay out on track. And frankly, if you're running in a race session where some of the other guys are not adhering to that philosophy, then you're going to make it to the finish. They're not. You're going to score a good finish, but you're also going to have as much experience as possible.
Moving on to the week ahead, we already talked about PEAK, but let's talk about World of Outlaws. Going to Limaland, Chris, tell us about it.
Yeah, Limaland, the second to last race of this World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model World Championship. The top few drivers all within single-digit points of one another. Kendall Tucker is still searching for his first win of the year, even though he's in the points lead, but Alex Bergeron is right there. A bunch of drivers are just right there, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Fact of the matter is, Alex Bergeron is the only guy who has won twice this year, but a lot of drivers in the top 10 certainly capable of taking victories. Kevin Dedman's been in the top 5 all year. Zach Leonardi, the defending champion, still looking for his first win too, so it'll be exciting to watch this.
And those, even if the points championship wasn't so close, those races are just exciting, period. Slide job after slide job after slide job. Moving on, though, VRS is going to be at COTA. Josh Rogers taking a victory lap, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, but Coanda can still lock up 1-2 in the championship. I know that Mitchell DeYoung and Mac Backham and those guys are all gunning to stay in second place, so be really exciting to see if they can sort of complete that sweep. And I know that Josh Rogers still in the points lead in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, so it'll be exciting to see if he can lock up 2 championships in the same year.
We've also got Xfinity going to Road America, Trucks going to Canadian Tire, so the Oval guys are going to go turn right this weekend. That should be fun to watch. IndyCar going to Gateway, but the fun one for the office, IMSA going to VIR, and Kevin, you're going to VIR as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So once again, the MLT Motorsports Prototype Challenge team will be competing. Our race is on Saturday night, I think. So if anybody's down at VIR, stop by the paddock, say hello. It's the orange and purple and white car with the big iRacing sticker on the shark fin. So always fun to run into iRacing members, and hopefully we can see you, near the podium, maybe in Victory Lane. We'll see.
Didn't you say somebody came to you with a banana costume?
A banana suit. That was at Mid-Ohio. Yeah. So if anybody can top that, maybe there's some iRacing credits in it for you.
Challenge accepted. Lastly today, we've got the Throw and Go Challenge with a special guest because I couldn't get my computer to update fast enough. So Dave Kemmer decided to jump in and race Kevin head-to-head.
It was interesting. I was standing here in the driving lab with a dart in my hand, and Dave Kemmer walked into the office, and he kind of looked at me, and I felt like I better explain what I'm doing since the boss is wondering why I'm playing darts in the morning. So he said, "Oh, that's cool." I said, "Oh, you want to drive?" He said, "Absolutely." And then we went from there.
So the dart landed on the 2017 Ford GT, Dave's first attempt at the Throw and Go Challenge. To put down a conservative 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Kevin, you were a little more Cindy than usual, trying to beat the boss.
Yeah, I think I felt extra pressure. I wanted to represent the marketing group, and then, of course, Greg's in my ear talking trash to me, saying how far behind I am. We try to start at roughly the same time so that one doesn't have an advantage knowing if somebody goes off. And I'm driving, and Greg's like, "Oh, you're way behind, you're way behind." So what do? I give it a little more gas. And how does that work? Not well, usually, right? So I had a couple of off tracks, I think 2. So that's a 20-second penalty. The whole time I thought I was behind until I finished, and then and Dave's still driving. So thanks for the help there, Greg.
I was trying to help Dave out by giving some misinformation. It was close though after the off track. So Dave with a 7 minutes 11 seconds, and then Kevin with a adjusted 6:56. So pretty close considering you're in the car that long. Once again, I was unable to participate because I couldn't get an update.
And Dave had no incident points, right?
Dave had no incident point. He was clean. What's exciting about the Throw and Go Challenge is next week we're taking it on the road. We're going to the Sim Racing Expo.
Special European edition.
Yeah, European edition. Me, Kevin, and Dougie, the guy behind our Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff. We're going to be out at the Nürburgring. Come by and say hi. We're going to have a few pods there. We're going to be showing off some new content. Do we want to say what it is?
New content. Could be a TCR car from Audi. Could be a track that's located somewhere in Spain.
Maybe.
Should be exciting. We're looking forward to showing it off. We're obviously doing the final touches of everything. Anything we show, I'll give you the little disclaimer, may not be full release ready, but it'll be pretty darn close, and I think it'll be worth your while if you're in the area to stop by and drive it.
I was driving the TCR around that unnamed track last week, and it's starting to really come together, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, stop by if you have a chance. We're going to be doing every couple hours a Throw and Go Challenge. We'll bring the dartboard along and see how people can do and how bad they can beat us. Before we sign off today, we got 2 final thoughts. Kevin, want to take the first?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Michael Conti. I know many of you probably heard. Well, first of all, he's a longtime competitor in our PEAK series, real stand-up guy. We've done some events with him, real big supporter of iRacing, and unfortunately his mom passed away last week after a long battle with cancer, and I just wanted to let him know that everybody here at iRacing is thinking about him and hoping everything goes well.
And then, Chris, you have one as well.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to send some well wishes out to Scott Speed. Scott broke his back at Nitro Rallycross over the weekend, and I worked with Scott at GRC for 5 years, and I don't want to make it take too long, but quick story time. Scott and I, a few years ago, I was doing a Twitter takeover for GRC, and I'm a 2-finger typer, and Scott was there while I was doing this, and Scott was giving me all the hell in the world about the fact that I was a 2-finger typer, challenged me to a typing contest. I beat him, but the fact that Scott was so competitive and highly motivated, I think is going to serve him really, really well in his recovery. If there's anybody who can get back in a car after just a few weeks after suffering a back injury like he had, and he's already standing up, I know that they're going the natural recovery route. So, Scott, just wanted to send our best wishes out to you. Heal up fast, come back soon.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. Scott's a great guy. He's done a lot for iRacing. He kind of got a bad rap when he got in a little bit of trouble with NIMH a couple of years ago. But, he's a regular guy, and sometimes emotions might take over. He's a racer, but he really is a good guy. He's helped us out a lot, and I hope that he recovers fully and quickly.
Well, thank you for joining us on the iRacing Downshift. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. We will be joining you from the Sim Racing Expo in the Nürburgring next week. Not exactly sure what we're going to come up with, but we'll come up with something. So it should be a good time. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you at the track.